my name is Allie. I'm going to be your dietitian today. It's nice to meet you. Okay, so I looked at your chart a little bit, and it looks like you're in today because you want to learn more about sodium and maybe decreasing your sodium intake. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just basically, I want to know how much I have consuming and if it is a problematic amount, what I can do to change that.
Okay. Is sodium something you're actively worried about, or why are you kind of interested in knowing more about this?
Well, a lot of people in my family, a lot of the older adults in my family, they have grown up with everyone salting everything, so there's a high sodium intake. But then there's also a lot of high blood pressure in my family, especially on my paternal side. So I just wanted to make sure that I could prevent any sort of negative health outcomes for myself as I get older.
That makes sense. You're kind of worried that impact you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, well, we can definitely kind of talk about that, and that's great that you're wanting to prevent something before it happens. That's awesome. Okay, so I was thinking we can kind of look through this handout on sodium. There's a lot of really good resources online. You just kind of have to know where to look. So this is from the CDC. Also, for more reliable information, if you want to do your own research, you can kind of look at the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is really good, or any kind of government handouts are going to be more reliable. But so this is kind of just giving a background on sodium and some foods that have higher sodium. So to start, so Americans in particular kind of have an issue with sodium. So the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, which is put together every 5 years by a board of dietitians and I think some doctors, maybe everyone comes together and kind of sets goals for a healthier America, per se. But so they recommend 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. Is that goal something you've heard of or seen before at all?
Not really. Sodium in each item. I haven't really seen anything else about exactly how much I should be taking in.
Okay. Yeah, so I know that number is kind of hard to wrap your head around, 2,300.
I know what that looks like.
Yeah, so I actually have the amount of salt that would be 2,300 milligrams of sodium. So it's about this much. So is that kind of what you were thinking, or were you thinking it would be a lot more or a lot less?
I don't milligrams are fine, so I was looking at anything
Yeah.
2,300 is a big number, so I thought it would be more than that.
Yeah, it really doesn't seem like a lot. Yeah. But yeah, so it's kind of good just to have a visual, I think, because numbers don't really mean much to me, at least. Okay, so yeah, and that's just kind of the goal they set. So that's by no means a perfect diet or anything. And the average intake of an American is 3,400 milligrams, so that's almost double. So this goal is trying to get people just to eat less, but for people that are on low sodium diets or have issues of high blood pressure, like you were saying your family does, they would probably want to aim them more around 2,000 milligrams a day or even 1,500 milligrams a day. And those goals can be pretty difficult to meet. So it's just something to think about. I know it's a lot of numbers, but for you, we can kind of just focus on smaller, easy changes since you're not high blood pressure yet or anything like that. But it's something something to think about. So yeah, and sodium and salt are different. So salt is sodium chloride. Sodium is a mineral, and typically the source of it is going to be salt. There's also in processed foods, in some other forms as well. So that's another common misconception that salt is just sodium. But most of the time, when you think of sodium, it is going to be salt. But a lot of it comes from processed foods. About 70% of America's intake, and only about 5% is like you actually shaking it on your food. Obviously, that's going to vary depending on how much people salt their food. Yeah, and then we kind of talk about some sources of sodium and take a look at your diet recall. So a lot of the typical ones are going to be processed foods. Pizza, sandwiches are really high in sodium because of the bread, the cheese, and the meat are all kind of high. This just gives you a nice example. One slice of bread can be 80 to 230 milligrams of sodium. And then usually you're going to have 2 slices of bread, obviously. And lunch meats contain around 750 milligrams of sodium. So, just to give you an idea, pretty high number, 750, if you're looking at maybe trying to consume 2,300 a day. Yeah, you can take this pamphlet home and it gives you some nice examples of foods to watch out for. And some suggestions which we can talk about. Checking nutrition labels, which we're going to look at some labels. And eating at home more frequently is going to be better than eating out because of all that processing adds sodium as like a preservative and just for flavor. So anything you make at home is most likely going to be better than anything you'd get out. And then this is a nice graphic of just being conscious about the types of foods you're buying, and we'll talk about label reading. So like a fresh tomato only has 6 milligrams of sodium, which is extremely low. Any kind of whole fruit or vegetables virtually going to have no sodium. And then the minute you can it, no salt added is going to be better. But this has 20 milligrams, probably ups it just from putting preservatives in it.
A lot of those preservatives have sodium as like one of them. Is that?
Yeah, so it's no salt added, but there's still sodium, which can be a little tricky. But it still is going to be better than normal canned tomatoes with salt, which are 200 to 220 milligrams. So just something to think about. I know that's a lot of numbers, so how are you feeling with that?
Oh, I think I'm fine because even like just take the numbers out of there, you can just get the whole idea that fresh is going to be better.
Yeah, you don't even really need to look at the numbers.
Yeah.
But I know numbers are. I don't like to look at numbers that much. I like to look at real life things. Okay, so yeah, I'll let you take this home. It has some good overview on it. And now I was thinking we could just kind of take a look at your typical diet from your 24-hour recall.
Yeah, so I had like a ham and cheese omelet that I salted, a little mixed green salad, and I had some fried chicken. And then for dinner, I had a salad with tomato, avocado, and mixed greens that I think are interesting. And some wine and like some more like lemon juice. I typically eat like 2 bigger meals a day, and I just kind of snack. So for my snacks for the day, I had some grape tomatoes, which I salted, some dried mango, had like a lemon bar at some point, and then just like a chicken tender and a handful of fries and some ranch with those.
Okay, So that's pretty typical that you'll have 2 big meals and kind of snack.
Yeah. This was like yesterday, kind of like more like a celebratory weekend. So like I like, had a couple bigger meals than I usually would, but yeah, for the most part, it's pretty typical.
Okay. So were these meals, did you make these at home, or did you eat them at a restaurant, or grab them on the go?
The brunch was at a restaurant, and then the chicken tenders and fries were also at a restaurant. But then the dinner and the other snacks were made at home. The tortellini though came in like a packaged thing that you just like threw in the water. But the sauce and salad and all that stuff we made at home.
Okay. And how many meals a day would you say you eat out?
Like 1 to 2.
Okay.
I eat out a lot. Like, I like don't. Well, I always say I don't have time to grocery shop and cook, but I do. I just don't make the time. But I would definitely like to eat out much less than I'm doing now.
And I see that you have some condiments on here and sauces. Is that something you'll typically do, is kind of like add ranch to things, or like a meat sauce, things like that? Do you kind of have a lot of sauces around the house? And
yeah, I usually eat like ketchup and ranch are like my main condiments.
Okay.
Balsamic vinaigrette's like my main salad dressing that I go for. And yeah, I always have like red sauce with pasta, probably at least like twice a week.
Okay. Yeah, and it is good to kind of understand nutrition labels, which we'll kind of get into. So things like that, your sauces you have at home are some really easy swaps that you can do just kind of at the grocery store when you're picking up your standard sauces. So we can kind of just take a look at the amounts of sodium in them, just so you kind of know what to look out for. So we can start with ranch. You said you like ranch. So the nice thing about sodium is it's really easy on the nutrition label. Some things aren't as clear, but it's really nice and clear on there for you. So you can kind of find what it is.
160 milligrams.
Okay. Yeah, and then another important thing about nutrition labels is to always know the serving size, because that number doesn't really mean much if you don't know how much ranch it actually is. Yeah, so this is tablespoons. So sometimes it's just easier to see. So like if you were gonna have chicken tenders, like how much do you think you would have?
I probably have like one of those like so I'll probably like 2 or 3 tablespoons.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so just something to think about, that sauces just kind of are an easy way to just get more sodium in, not meaning to. In addition to like the chicken tenders are gonna have a lot of sodium too.
Yeah.
So just something to think about, like when you're picking up staples, you can kind of read the label and try to find a lower sodium alternative, just so you're not like adding more sodium to a already high sodium meal. Yeah, so that's just something to think about if that's something you'd be interested in doing. Do you think that you would like to kind of read labels and try and figure out some staples that are lower in sodium?
Yeah, for sure. This is small enough. But you know what I am wondering is that, so let's say I go to the grocery store and I pick out a low sodium, like red sauce.
Yeah.
And then I bring it home and I salt it to taste here. Would that still be less sodium than like a typical regular red sauce?
That is a good question. I think it really depends. Like, so let's look at this pasta sauce, for example. So it's 490 milligrams. So that's kind of a lot. And this is, let's see, half a cup. So you think that's how much you would eat of it?
I probably eat about that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a pretty normal serving size. Sometimes the serving sizes are not very realistic, so
Makes sense.
yeah, but so that's kind of a lot of sodium. I know that some other brands can be around like 200 milligrams.
Okay.
So if you buy one like that and maybe salt it just a little bit, I would say it would probably be less. But it's kind of hard to say. Because when you just have the salt shaker, it's kind of hard to know how much you're putting on.
Yeah, makes sense.
But, yeah, definitely something to think about. I think that if you were going to go for a pretty low sodium option and just add like a shake of salt, I think that would be a little lower. So something you could try. Okay, so then just another thing with like sauces that I kind of wanted to point out was this is like kind of a healthier marketed ranch. So it looks very appealing to buyers who like, oh, less calories and less fat, 84% less fat, 45 calories per serving, which is quite a bit less, like half of that, and it is the same serving size, which is another thing to look out for when you're comparing brands. Make sure the serving sizes are comparable.
This has more sodium.
Yeah, so exactly. So that's something to look out for when you're shopping. Just because something looks like it's going to be healthier doesn't mean it's going to have less sodium. And something that companies tend to do is when they're trying to decrease fat or calories, they'll add more sodium and salt because it's like a flavor enhancer. So typically, like when they're trying to make these changes, it doesn't taste quite as good. So then they'll like add sodium and it'll taste great. So that's something to think about too. And then I just have balsamic. You said that you enjoy. And take a look at that and see what you think.
This is more than I would have thought.
Yeah, because balsamic's like when you think about it, you're like, oh, it's kind of a healthy dressing.
Yeah, you think it's just like oil and vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if it's like a processed one and not one that you make at home.
Yeah, and you can do that at home if that's something that you like.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are lower sodium alternatives that you can look for that too, if you're interested. Okay. So, is that like when you're shopping and reading labels, is that something that you feel confident in now? Like kind of looking for the amount of sodium?
Yeah, I guess I would like to know what is a good level of sodium to have each thing.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that
So
talks about what to
these
expect.
ranges. So anything that's going to be in the hundreds, like 300 or even 200, is going to be like a significant source of sodium.
Like kind of like 300 plus is like a
Yeah,
lot
something
to be in
to
one
watch
item.
out for.
Okay.
Yeah, but it also depends on like the serving size things like that. And if you're gonna just have like whole fruits and vegetables, that's gonna have nothing in it. Yeah. Let me see here. Anything like very processed is towards the thousands is when that's gonna be a significant chunk of your day, like over half. But yeah, so here's like chicken breast, depending on how it's prepared, can be 40 to 330. So kind of just thinking of the food and how you can prepare that with less sodium is what I'd say to kind of look out for versus trying to gauge like what's a good level, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, so these are some nice ranges to look at. Okay, so how confident do you feel that you could like go to the store and pick out a lower sodium option on a scale of 1 to 10?
10.
Okay.
Usually I just kind kind of find whatever's cheapest. I don't really have to pay too much attention to like the brands on mine anyway. So that would probably actually be good that I pay attention to what I'm buying. So
yeah, that is true. And I don't think the lower sodium options are typically going to be more expensive, as especially if you go with like the like store name brand. A lot of the time we'll still have a lower sodium option. The generic brands will still have lower sodium. So yeah, hopefully it won't be too much of a cost issue. Okay. All right. So what kind of changes do you think you're most interested in making? Like salting things less when you're at home with the salt shaker, or like eating out less, eating less of those processed foods, like buying foods that are lower in sodium.
Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit of all of those things. The looking at the labels and the just not actually adding salt to a lot of things seems smaller and more doable. And not eating out is just something that I should work towards in general, like monetarily and nutritionally. So I'd ultimately like to just eat out a lot less, but I know that it's a lot more realistic to just try to focus on buying low sodium options at the store and adding less salt to my food at home.
Okay. So do you kind of want to focus on like having one goal or like two smaller goals? Or what do you think would be most manageable for you?
I think kind of having like an overall goal of eating out less would help contribute to me then going to the grocery store more often and buying the lower sodium options. Yeah. So I think the overall goal should be just eating out less, but in the process of doing that, I'll buy the lower sodium options and salt less.
Yeah, that's a great point.
When I eat at home.
Okay, so yeah, we can come up with a goal, and it doesn't have to be anything drastic. Just kind of start you out and see how it goes. So you're saying eating out less is kind of what your big goal is going to be?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then we can kind of make that more specific so that you can like have it in your head, like, oh, this amount of days a week is I'm going to eat out or prepare a meal. So how many days a week do you think you want to aim for eating out? That makes sense.
Probably.
Okay, so eat 3 meals out a week. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And how like achievable do you think that is for you on a scale of 1 to 10? Like where are you at right now?
I mean, I know that I do have the time and the skills to cook at home. I just have to do it.
Okay.
I also know a lot of people like will cook a lot of stuff on like a Sunday and like put them in containers like meal prep. That would probably be really helpful.
Yeah.
So my Sundays are usually pretty open, so I feel like it's more than manageable to do that.
Okay. So aim for 3 times a week eating out and the rest at home prepared meals. Okay. And so we'll check back in our next visit. Do you think by the next visit you could hopefully have that achieved around 3 times a week?
Yeah, how far out do you want the next
Probably like a month.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so in a month you should hopefully be eating out 3 times a week. Okay, awesome. And do you foresee any like obstacles that you might have to get over, like starting this out?
Just kind of getting in that routine of going shopping regularly and making sure I have what I need at home to make stuff. Because a big problem that I have right now is that I'll start, I'll be like, oh, I'll go grocery shopping and I will not eat out anymore. But then I don't get everything I need to make a meal. I get more snack type stuff or blah blah blah, or I don't keep going after that. So
yeah,
it's just a habit that I have to get into. That'll be the hardest, but Yeah, I feel like the month time limit though kind of is helpful because then I have like a deadline and then I have to kind of
Yeah.
get.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, another thing to think about is you could just like make a list of everything you need, maybe, so it's easier to stick to that plan.
Yeah.
Okay, this sounds good. I'm glad that you met with me today, and I hope that I'll see you next month, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, thank you. Very helpful.
Thank
Nice to meet
you.
you.
Nice to meet you.